The other issue in Pittsburgh, and every owner will say their goal is to win a championship every year. And I've said this before, Art Rooney II is one of the few that actually believes it, to the point where they try to just patch whatever holes they may have in the hopes of having the most competitive team they can. They resist rebuilding. Here is Art Rooney asked yesterday whether or not the Steelers should just tear it down, get a high draft pick, and try to build what they built with high draft picks back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why you waste a year of your life not trying to contend. Obviously, your roster is what it is every year. It changes every year, and so you deal with what you have every year and try to put yourself in position to compete every year. And sometimes you have the horses, sometimes you don't, but I think you try every year.
With this change, do you expect this to be a total rebuild?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a rebuild. I mean, it's a new coach, so there will be changes, and we'll have to all get comfortable with kind of the plan. So, whether you call it a rebuild or not, I don't like that word that much. We'll try to compete day one if we can.
Well, look, they sparked their turnaround in 1969 when they got Joe Green 4th overall, and then they were 1-13, and they got Terry Bradshaw 1st overall in 1970. So that's the easiest way to turn it around, and that's what the Browns tried to do strategically less than a decade ago. They got Myles Garrett, they got Baker Mayfield. If you're not going to do it that way, Chris, here's what the Steelers need, okay? 1974. This is unbelievable. 1974, 21st overall pick, Hall of Famer Lynn Swann. 46th overall pick, Hall of Famer Jack Lambert. 82nd overall pick, Hall of Famer John Stallworth. 125th overall pick, Hall of Famer Mike Webster. Undrafted at a time when they had 17 rounds, Hall of Famer Donnie Shell. They need a year like that if they're going to get back to where they want to be, where they just hit and hit and hit on, and it doesn't have to be Hall of Famers, it can just be perennial Pro Bowlers. But they're going to need to do that. If they're never drafting at the very top, they better make what they can out of whatever spot they land by constantly trying to be as good as they can be and being just good enough to maybe make the playoffs, but not good enough to advance.
Yeah, they've shown that ability. I mean, going from Cowher to Tomlin, they kind of just continued, not to say have drafts like that, but they had drafts where a lot of good second and third round picks and teams that just kind of kept it going, right? And that's why the Cowher to Tomlin era ushered through so smoothly there. And they really did have that going. Nobody likes the phrase rebuild right now in the NFL. I understand that. I get it. Rebuild is just this now in the current, day and age and where we are in the NFL and the salary cap. Rebuild is just don't commit yourself to some contract with an older player that's going to compromise winning 2 and 3 years down the road. That's all it is. It's not that you have to just totally blow up the team and get everybody out here. It's about getting your checkbook in order. Hopefully you can draft the right way, but you don't want to be committed to going, oh, well, yeah, he might help us next year to become 9-8, right? But then we're going to be stuck with him the next year to go 8-9 and then 7-10. And then that's where you go, we don't need those guys anymore. Let's get away, and you start to form a young nucleus. And I think that's what rebuilding is, and I think that's where the Steelers got to kind of get back to.
Quarterback really is the key, though. They went 20 years between Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger, and they were never in position to draft a quarterback high in round one. They finally got it with Roethlisberger. He slipped through the cracks in 2004. It was Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, not in that order. Manning first, Rivers fourth, and Roethlisberger fell to 11th, I think, and that was their answer, and he won a couple of Super Bowls. And until they do that, they thought they had it with Kenny Pickett. It didn't work. That's what they're going to need to have sustained success, like they did under Bradshaw, like they did under Roethlisberger. And sometimes you got to bottom out 1 year to get yourself in position to get that player, or you better trade up. Yeah. If you think he's the guy, then you trade up. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.